Good afternoon and welcome inside another edition of That's What I Think with Brandon Swanson. I'm your fearless host, Brandon Swanson, and today I am running down the winners and losers from free agency so far, and it has been a wild and fun free agency in the NFL. Very exciting, lots of moves, lots of changes, a lot of shakeups for a couple of teams, and a couple of teams holding pat when, honestly, they should not be. But we'll get right into it. The winners so far from free agency, the number one winner in my book, it is the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears, they needed to get better offensively. They had no weapons. All they had was Mitch Trubisky throwing to a lot of guys that no one knew their name, and then Jordan Howard. That was it. Well, now you know these weapons' names on the Chicago Bears. How about Allen Robinson? How about a couple of years ago, 80 receptions, 1,400 yards, 14 touchdowns, I think, 14 touchdowns, 11 touchdowns, 14 touchdowns for the Jacksonville Jaguars. How about that? That's a weapon you want to have. And I know that he had an injury issue last season. The year before that, it wasn't the best, but Allen Robinson, healthy receiver, Mitch Trubisky, a good quarterback, a very good up-and-coming quarterback. This is going to be a great duo and something really fun to watch. Then you have Taylor Gabriel. You put a speedster in there, someone who can stretch the field for the Chicago Bears, something that they really couldn't do last season. They didn't want to do it. They didn't want to do it with Trubisky because they didn't really want to open up the playbook, but also because they didn't have the receivers to do so. Now they do. And then going back to Robinson, you got a guy who is a really supreme route runner, so that's going to be great to have. You have Trey Burton, a tight end, a really good up-and-coming tight end. Everyone remembers him for his pass in the Super Bowl over to Nick Foles for the touchdown for the Eagles. Even though they say that it was an illegal formation, who cares? It still counted, and they still beat the Patriots. But the Chicago Bears, I think you could say that their offense now is good. I know. It's scary. It's not a word we used with the Bears, but it's good. It's going to be, I think, something to be reckoned with. Of course, the team that I'm going to be looking at, it's the Minnesota Vikings. They're going to be the number one team in the NFC North. I mean, how can they not be? And we'll get to that here in just a couple of minutes. But the Chicago Bears did exactly what they needed to do. Everyone has always dogged the Bears, and rightfully so, for being that team that has ownership that sits on their butts and goes, oh, look at all the moves happening. They didn't do that this year. They have the fans excited, and there's a reason to go to Bears games again. There's a reason to think that the Bears could actually be good and win some games. And I think that's exactly what they'll do. The Chicago Bears, a big winner. Now moving on, we've got the Cleveland Browns. And I know that people will say, well, Brandon, they didn't really win in free agency. I know, I'm going to give them a pass. But they did win. I wanted to put them in here. They did win in terms of trades. And it was right on the cusp of free agency, so I'm cheating a little bit with this one. But I wanted to throw it in there. They get arguably the best, quote-unquote, available receiver in Jarvis Landry. Wow. I am a huge Jarvis Landry fan. I've had him on my fantasy football team. He's been great there. But also, the guy catches passes. He's efficient. He's effective. He scores touchdowns. He's able to do a lot of damage over the middle of the field, and he's done it. I mean, in Miami with Ryan Tannehill and Jay Cutler, now you're going over here to Cleveland where I know that you have Tyrod Taylor, and that's another reason I think the Browns have won here. Do I think Tyrod Taylor is an elite quarterback? No, I don't. But do I think that he can be a good quarterback when given actual weapons around him? Yes, I do. So you bring on Jarvis Landry, you pair him with a healthy and hopefully sober Josh Gordon. That's a duo in and of itself. Then you throw in Coleman. Then you throw in David Njoku. No, you don't have Kirk Cousins, but you have Tyrod Taylor, a quarterback who has shown that he can be effective, and that's with limited to no weapons. And now you have weapons for him. Deshaun Kaiser is out. He's gone. He's been traded away. He's actually, I think, going to a better situation for him. Tyrod Taylor comes into a better situation for him. And now also, the Cleveland Browns, I can say one thing in free agency. They're bringing in Carlos Hyde. They're bringing in Carlos Hyde from the 49ers. That's a good addition. Young running back. Cleveland is starting to look offensively like a team that could start to do a little bit of damage over there in the AFC in their division. So I think it's one of those things where the Cleveland Browns, did they get better? They certainly did. Are they going to be now this elite team? No, but they also have the draft coming up. They could still go with Saquon Barkley. They could go with a plethora of quarterbacks there as well to add to the team. The Cleveland Browns are doing things right, and that's what people want to see. Good job, Cleveland. Go you. And the final winner I want to talk about, it's not a team, it's a person, and it's Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins, how about it, buddy? Way to go. You didn't go to the Cleveland Browns like I wanted you to, but that's okay. You went to the Minnesota Vikings on a 3-year, fully guaranteed $86 million contract. Somebody tell me where I can find a job like that, where my skills and abilities will fit in well there, and I'll go for it. But Kirk Cousins, you are possibly the biggest individual winner in free agency. Super coveted. So here's the thing. Kirk Cousins, as I do think he is good and he will change any team, I believe, for the better, he has a 26-30-1 record overall. He doesn't even have a winning record as a quarterback. He's getting a 3-year, $86 million deal. So do I believe the Minnesota Vikings overpaid for him? Yes. Do I also believe that the Minnesota Vikings are a Super Bowl favorite now? Yes. However, Kirk Cousins and the Vikings, if they do not make the Super Bowl with Kirk Cousins, with Stephon Diggs, Adam Thielen, Kyle Rudolph, and then a healthy, Dalvin Cook in the backfield, they may end up being the biggest losers because there are now the huge expectations from what they did last year with Case Keenum, 13-3 team. If they do any less than that, with paying what they did for Kirk Cousins, with a team that's hopefully going to be healthy this season, for the most part, they were on the offensive side of the ball, minus the Dalvin Cook injury, which it did hurt, but they had McKinnon and Murray come in and do a really nice job. If they do any less than 13-3, truly, if they do any less than a Super Bowl appearance, it is a loss for the Minnesota Vikings. So what they have done, and what Minnesota did last year, what last year led up to, and what being able to go and get Kirk Cousins in free agency this year did, it puts them on a pedestal to go out and be flawless. And Ricky Widmer, our Minnesota fan, our fanboy from Minnesota, I believe he's got to think the same thing. Super Bowl or bust. And maybe he disagrees with me, but how can you not think that you sign Kirk Cousins for a 3-year, $86 million deal, all guaranteed, and if he comes in and he does any less than what you did with Case Keenum, you're going to have angry fans, you're going to have lots of questions, and if you don't make it to the Super Bowl, people are going to be going, well, what did we go after Kirk Cousins for? That's going to be the question. So Minnesota, have you put yourself in a prime position? Yes. But if it fails, the backlash could be ugly. And now the honorable mention team of the winners, the Kansas City Chiefs. Yes. Do you get rid of Alex Smith? Yes. Do you bring in a rookie quarterback who's no longer a rookie now, but Mahomes, and you give him the keys to the kingdom, and you let Albert Wilson go, Derek Johnson's gone, and then you've got one of the best defensive guys in the secondary, Marcus Peters. You let him go and trade him to the Rams, but for the Chiefs, you do a real good job. You bring in Sammy Watkins, even though I think he has a little case of the dropsies all the time. But you bring in Watkins, you bring in a pretty good receiver, you bring in a couple of other guys. Kansas City Chiefs, honorable mention winner. On to the fun ones, on to the losers, on to the teams that literally still suck. So I've got to start off with the Arizona Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals are in my opinion, a dire strait of hurt because coming into this free agency, you have no quarterback. You have no starting quarterback. You have Larry Fitzgerald who's coming back for this season, but I'm thinking this is it. And then outside of Larry Fitzgerald, you have inconsistency among the wide receiver position. And then at running back, even with a healthy David Johnson, who is outstanding, I don't think you have enough to be extremely competitive, not on the offensive side of the football. So what do? You lose the Kirk Cousins sweepstakes. Okay, all teams but one did. I get that. But then what do? Your backup plan is let's pay Sam Bradford, the oft-injured Sam Bradford, $20 million. People thought the Dolphins paying Jay Cutler $10 million was insane. Arizona's gone loopy. $20 million for Bradford? You kidding me? And an option for $20 million in a possible year too? Holy Hannah. Arizona, you have literally lost it. You don't go out and get any significant wide receivers. Then you let Tyrann Mathieu walk because he won't take a pay cut. Arizona, you are not in a good spot right now. You are going to need every single pick in the upcoming draft to be flawless. So good luck. Loser number 2, the New York Jets. So again, you lose the Kirk Cousins sweepstakes. Your fallback plan is let's sign Josh McCown to another year, and then Teddy Bridgewater. And Teddy Bridgewater, we don't know what we're going to get with Teddy. No one really does. So for the Jets to go out there and try and bring him in, you don't know what you're going to get, but the return, if positive, could be very good. However, you still have question marks at the running back position. You didn't add a wide receiver to a wide receiver core that seemed to be getting better. Defensively, you don't really do anything. The Jets just didn't do enough. I didn't like their plan Bs. I did not like their plan Bs with quarterback. And I know, again, I get it, the draft and everything like that, but free agency is that time when you're hoping to be able to make that splash. The Jets aren't able to do that with Cousins, probably the best quarterback available there. But then just going back to McCown, it's showing that it's pretty much going to be the same as it's been there in New York with the Jets, which it's not playoff worthy. In New York, you just didn't do enough in free agency, and I think that's why you're definitely coming out a loser in the free agency side of things. And then finally, the third and final one, the Indianapolis Colts. The Indianapolis Colts, with so much money to spend, is doing nothing. Is doing absolutely nothing. So, again, they don't land a big quarterback. And I wonder what the Colts are going to go for in the draft. I mean, if it's not quarterback, you're crazy. But then you also don't do anything as of right now. You don't do anything to go out and get a running back. Frank Gore is done. No one can try and go on the presumption that, maybe he'll come back for another season. No, he's done, even if he wanted to come back. You don't go after McKinnon. McKinnon's off the board. You don't go after Carlos Hyde. He's off the board. Deion Lewis is off the board. I mean, come on. What are you doing? All this money to spend and you're not being aggressive makes no sense to me. Makes absolutely zero sense. And your defense, let's look at it. Yep, it's still Swiss cheese. So you don't go after anybody there in the secondary. You don't go and try and add any pieces on the defensive side of the football. You're standing stagnant, and that does not make sense. It just doesn't make any sense. And even if you had every pick in the draft be a great one, you still have not fixed the Indianapolis Colts. A little bit of free agency, a little bit of the draft, and the Colts could have been looking better. But the reason why this is so infuriating, I think, if you're a Colts fan, you're looking at all the teams in your division making some moves. Whether it's one big move, whether it's a number of moves that are just improving their team, whether it's offense or defense, you're doing nothing. And because of that, Indy, you might be the biggest loser. And of course, my honorable mention loser, the other team in New York, the Giants. You go after Jonathan Stewart? Jonathan Stewart? At the end, at not even the end of his prime, at just the end of his career. Unbelievable. And great. You signed Nate Solder. You need 4 more offensive linemen because all 5 of them sucked. You got 1, you need 4 more. So you're not going to probably find all 4 of them in the draft, so maybe go for another 1 or 2 here in free agency. If you really want to get better and you want to make sure that Eli is able to last, 3 more years, you should probably put more into that offensive line. Solder's a good start at left tackle, but 4 more are needed. That's for sure. And those are my thoughts this week, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. Free agency has been a lot of fun so far for a lot of teams. A lot of teams really doing a great job of going out there, being aggressive, and making their team better. A number of teams already better, and we haven't even reached the draft yet. So continue to tune in to what's going on in free agency, and definitely be tuning in when it is draft time. I know we'll have a lot of that coverage right here on MVP. But until next time, next week, same time, same place, 3 Eastern, 2 Central, and 12 Pacific time. Until then, have a great rest of your week. Enjoy your weekend. So long.